Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts. What if?
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things Podcast. I am Sam, discussing today Marvel's What If Season 3, the final season. Joining me to have a little walk through, it's Stefan.
Hey buddy, how we doing?
Yeah, good man, good. What If from Marvel Animation. This is Season 3 of the show and the final season. It has been cancelled. We will come on to why we think that is at the very end. But what we're going to do initially is we're just going to talk through the episodes in the sense of what each episode was, what the concepts were, and then we're going to have a general chat at the end. So we're going to walk through this as per tradition on the podcast. What If Season 3, the title of Episode 1 was...
What if the Hulk fought the Mech Avengers?
I mean, this one, the title really does tell you everything you need to know, which is the Hulk Banner, in essence, inadvertently via gamma radiation and trying to do different things, creates a kind of uber Hulk, a kind of monster. Think Godzilla, kind of monstrous-sized creature. And the Avengers have to mech up. They basically create these massive robot versions of themselves. Think Pacific Rim.
So the episode, like Transformers meets Avengers, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So you have that kind of confrontation. Episode 2, the title was...
What if Agatha went to Hollywood?
Bizarre one. This one, I'm not going to lie. Agatha Harkness in this is trying to harness the power of the Celestial, but they kind of tell the story in an old Hollywood-y style. You get to see her interact, or she has killed a number of the Eternals, or she's taken them sort of captive. Kingo is her co-star, and it's all about her trying to harness the power of the sleeping Celestial that she's learned about. In the end, to do good or to do bad, who knows? It's Agatha.
That's the mystery, yeah.
Episode 3, the title was...
What if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier?
Basic premise of this one is the Red Guardian, rather than taking the assignment of being a sleeper agent, goes to the States to try and do good, battle capitalism on behalf of the people. And he actually interferes on the Winter Soldier, killing the Starks, Mr. and Mrs. Stark. And it becomes a kind of buddy cop episode where they become a bit of a duo. Probably the funnier episode of the whole thing. Episode 4 for What If, the title was...
What if Howard the Duck got hitched?
This one, I'm just going to say what the basic plot was, which was Darcy, beautiful young lady, meets, falls in love and marries Howard the Duck, and they have a baby/egg.
It's a fucking big egg.
It is I imagine that's smarted somewhat, pushing that out.
That is not a pregnancy I'd want to be in the room for.
No. Episode 5, the title was...
What if the Emergence destroyed the Earth?
Basic premise is that the Earth is destroyed. The Emergence isn't stopped. The Celestial busts out of the planet, and the planet is now smashed to bits with gravity wells and all sorts. We actually saw this in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the later series. It wasn't done as an emergence, it was done as Quake wrecked the planet, and broke it apart. So we had kind of seen it in live action as a similar thing to this. This is all about a kind of what then happens. There is an Iron Federation versus an Alliance. Someone using old Stark tech. It was actually... The person using it was...
Quentin Beck.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you. Quentin Beck. Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
No worries.
Title of episode 6.
What if 1872?
Basically, Kate Bishop and Shang-Chi are in the Old West. They're cowboys.
Cowboys. Yep.
That's all. I mean, there's not a lot more to say about that. And episode 7, the title was...
What if the Watcher disappeared?
And I'm going to say this, the title of episode 8 was...
What if?
Yeah, funny.
Yeah.
Episode 7 and 8 are basically one story split over 2 episodes. The Watcher is disappeared by fellow Watchers who are fed up with him interfering. And because of that, he's going to be disciplined and he's going to be, I think, put to death is basically what they're going to do because he keeps interfering with things.
Yeah.
But don't worry about it because he's chums with Captain Carter, who is now the most OP force in the entire universe, it would appear. And her and her ragtag group of, including Howard the Duck's offspring. Birdie.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. They all get ordained as Watchers themselves and take on the powers of the Watchers and take on the original Watchers. And yeah. As most people listening can probably hear from the enthusiasm in my voice, this wasn't a series I enjoyed. And I'm going to throw this out there. I think the main reason being is I first saw the concept for What If and absolutely loved the idea of a bit like a comic book, which is, you know what it is, but via animation, you are going to take events and just go off a little bit. Like, so for me, a perfect example of like What If is the Red Guardian and the Bucky episode, which is what if the Bucky didn't kill them because Red Guardian intervened, and then you got to see that unfold of, okay, so what would Bucky's character be then? How would they interact? What would actually then happen? You know, what would the ramifications be on the universe? You know, would Tony still grow up the same way he did if his parents were there the whole time? Probably not. So that was kind of where the concept was in my head of like, that was what we would see, and it'd be kind of, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that would have happened. Oh, maybe he would have grown up evil then. Like, you know, he was rebelling against his dad. You know, to me, it was like there were so many interesting avenues to that with just these tiny little adjustments to what we'd seen in the MCU.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I remember the very first episode of season 1 was Steve Rogers gets injured and Peggy Carter becomes Captain America or Captain Britain instead. Yeah. And I kind of watched that and went, okay, I see what they're doing here. Something happens. It changes what we know. Yeah. Another story develops. Perfect. And then like episode 2 was like T'Challa becomes Star-Lord. And I was like, bit strange, but okay, you're kind of going down that's cool. I like that. And I remember by the end of like the first season where it kind of become oh no, wait a minute, this is just a bit of a Captain Carter story. Yeah. And then season 2 kind of carried that on.
Yeah, season 2 was, in essence, just a Captain Carter show. I mean, it was basically a linked show, rather than it being individual episodes because what I always assumed would be they'd all be standalone episodes. There'd be the only continuity would be the narration. But they then decided to link a story, create these characters that would then cross over between the different worlds. And I mean, I don't know, some people might have really liked that. For me, it was like, this isn't what the show was in my head. So I then kind of had that, all right, well, okay, it's not what I thought it was going to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And then it got to the point where season 3 was announced, and it was also announced it was the end, like they weren't doing anymore. And I kind of read a lot of stuff online, and I was like, actually, it would appear that my thoughts on this are very heavily echoed across everything. Like, a lot of people have watched this show, and basically season 2 really was like, no, this isn't what I signed up for, so to speak.
Yeah, the premise and the idea of what this could have been was incredible. Yeah. The execution of it was awful. Do you feel... We are both massive Marvel fans. We love Marvel. We do a lot of Marvel podcasts. And I don't want to sound like I'm just kind of slagging off Marvel or anything, because I'm not. Yeah. I just don't think this went in the direction that a lot of the fans wanted.
But do you think that that's our problem?
If it wasn't so widely kind of the same thing from a lot of people online, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
It would seem like a lot of people have the same thought of us, of like they were expecting, like we were, standalone episodes of, different multiverses or whatever, but of things that are like, right, we know that Tony Stark became Iron Man and he did this, this, and this. But then, like you say, what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
And we saw that Tony Stark actually grew up to be this, this, and this instead.
Yeah.
That's what we all expected. What none of us expected was an episode about Howard the Duck having a baby with Darcy and the entire multiverse trying to get hold of this egg.
I mean, the only thing about that the only thing about that was kind of encouraging is that Howard the Duck can score a hottie like Darcy. I mean, maybe some of us have a chance. I don't know. It's just maybe that's the kind of encouragement I need to look for in these shows. I think the overall, like you, I don't really go into things with a viewpoint of, right, that's it, blow the dust off my podcast mic, it's time to slag something off. My kind of view is on it is like, okay, this wasn't from me. That tends to be my kind of take on things. It's like, okay, do you know what? I didn't enjoy that, so that clearly wasn't from me. What is interesting is, and don't get me wrong, there's bound to be people out there who really enjoyed the series and are sad that it's finished. But there is also some really vocal, but again, not in a vocal, because Marvel, Star Wars, different entities like that have got so big, they're going to get hated for just being what they are. It becomes fashionable, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, you did die a hero, live long enough to become the villain.
Yeah, and so basically, that happens. Now, what I find interesting with this is that it is a kind of, this isn't what I expected the show to be, and although I've given it a chance, I've not really enjoyed it. Now, me and you said this a couple of times, which is after season 2 of this show, if they had announced season 3 and not said it was the final season, I wouldn't be watching it and we wouldn't be talking about it. We'd have just abandoned it because neither of us were into it by the end of season 2.
Yeah.
So, but because they said, like, it's the third and final one, we were like, well, we've talked about the first 2. Let's round out the trilogy.
In the words of Mastermind, I started, so I'll finish.
Exactly, yeah. I just, the thing, like, I was going through these episodes then, like we were talking about, and it's like, you talk about the basic premise. Now, you talk about that first episode, the what if scenario, if this happened with the gamma radiation, stuff like that. What I think the show became, which was different to my interpretation in my head, it kind of felt like the animators and the story writers, probably massive comic book fans, were literally picking out their favourite kind of comic storyline, if you like, that was random. Because in season 1, of course, you had the zombies, which was a what if episode, which is now going to be its own standalone animated show later this year.
Which I don't understand. I've got to be honest with you. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm interested to watch the first couple of episodes, but I really don't see how that's going to work.
Why?
I haven't read the comic. I haven't read the comic books of the What If zombie, like the zombie episodes and stuff. But from that one episode of What If, I kind of watched it and went, so all the Avengers are zombies?
Yeah.
Okay. As a What If episode, bit quirky, bit strange. As an entire series, I'm like, I don't quite understand how it's going to work.
When you say entire series, it's literally 4 episode special event thing.
I mean, it's just 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll watch it. I'm interested. I'm interested because I don't understand how it's going to work. If that makes sense.
No, you've really lost me when you say it's not how it's going to work. I mean, do you mean as in you don't understand the storyline behind it, or as in?
Yeah. Like they're zombies. I'm like, I know who the Avengers are.
Yeah.
And we do podcasts about zombies.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I understand what the two things are separately.
Yep.
But together, my brain goes, I'm not sure. What the hell? How do these go together?
Okay. Yeah,
for it. I'm intrigued by it because my brain just can't quite work it out. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you've drunk too much at Christmas. We need to have a word. But, yeah, it's okay. It'll be fine. A zombie outbreak virus affecting the world. It'll be okay. You'll get it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so that has happened, and it's kind of like that one episode of What If was like the highest rated. People enjoyed it because people loved that comic book run that existed. And I kind of feel like because that happened, then that's what the show became. It became like, oh, that was popular. Everyone loved that. Therefore, we're just going to pick out random comics and characters that people liked in like as comic book runs, and we're just going to turn them into What If episodes. And it kind of felt not what was advertised. Like what was advertised was, you've seen the MCU up to this point, so just focusing on the MCU.
Yep.
What if that event didn't happen? So this is the MCU as you know it, but here's this just alternate version of it. Because the whole thing about the multiverse is every decision is played out. That's the theory, okay? In real, true mega science life, as my daughter would say, it literally is all played out. So literally every decision, like if you walk left one day in another multiverse, you went right. So you can do with the MCU as established, and then go, right, so what if Steve Rogers, for whatever reason, doesn't get in that machine and Carter does? Okay, that's a standalone episode. Doesn't become Captain America, becomes Captain Carter, Captain Britain, whatever. Okay, all right, that makes sense. That was one change, and this is how it tweaked everything from that point.
Yep.
That was what I thought was going to happen the whole way through. Like, there wasn't going to be, like, she was going to pop up in every episode. We were literally going to have, okay, the next episode then is what if this moment here didn't happen? Or what if this moment, you know, where Hawkeye is going to do that? Hawkeye says the greatest shot he ever took was not shooting, not taking out Black Widow.
The one he didn't take, yeah.
What if he took the shot? What if he took the shot but didn't kill her? But she's hunting him. You know, you could have had an episode where it was Black Widow versus Hawkeye, like the two of them who we all know as best friends, but in this episode,
enemies.
Are the absolute worst of enemies trying to kill each other. So there is a plethora, there is a insurmountable amount of ideas that could have existed for the show, and that was what I thought it was going to be. Like one little tweak, and I thought, oh wow, that's going to be interesting, especially when they were getting the voice cast as well.
Because they got pretty much everyone.
Yeah, you look at that episode with the stupid bloody egg. The cast in that episode is insane.
They had Kat Dennings came back as Darcy. Samuel Jackson was Nick Fury. Hemsworth did Thor. Yeah. Tom Hiddleston did Loki.
Yeah, Brolin.
They even got Clark Gregg back to be Agent Phil.
Yeah. Coulson's there. Thanos was there, like Brolin's voice.
Yondu's there. Michael Rooker's there. Yeah.
So
everyone, even like Ebony Moore, even he came back and did the voice.
What a frigging waste! And I know this is just my opinion, but that you have managed to get all of those people into a studio to voice things, and that's the episode you put together. That's the thing. No, don't get me wrong. Like I said, this is just my opinion. Loads of people probably loved it, thought it was great. Perhaps it was based on a comic that people loved. I don't know. For me, if you have the ability and the capacity and the financial power to assemble people like that to lend their voices again to these characters that they brought to live action, do something with it. And do what you said you were going to do, which is the MCU and what if scenarios, not, hey, we'll just do loads of different comic book stories, which is fine if people love that, but for me, it's just, this isn't what was advertised, and I think that's why the show's dead.
Yeah, and it was the fact that it went from one-off episodes, and it suddenly became really, this has been 3 series of Captain Carter.
Yeah.
And that was a bit like, I didn't expect that. I didn't need that. Like, no. I love the character. I love the actress.
Yep.
But I didn't need it.
No.
If you wanted to make, like, we had Agent Carter, that was its standalone show.
Yeah.
We didn't need basically the animated version.
Nope, I agreed. Yeah, no, I agree.
They could have called this Agent Carter and the Multiverse, and they could have probably done the same thing.
Mate, you're absolutely right. You know, you literally could have named this show Agent Carter in the Multiverse and it would have made sense to the show because she was the recurring character. I mean, season 2 especially. But yeah, she was basically
apart from the Die Hard episode they dropped on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say. I know it's a short episode. I know it's just a bit of a negative summary, but I think anything else I say is just kicking it, really. I mean, the show is gone. It is done. I kind of felt like you said, which is the show had a really great concept, but for me, in my opinion, and for you, they missed it. They really missed the mark on it, and it went in a direction that sort of wasn't advertised. And I think that in itself is problematic because when you kind of put out press, this is what we're doing, people get excited for that, and then that's not what you're doing. That immediately, like you said, if this show was called Captain Carter and the Multiverse, I would have gone into it with that expectation. I'd have gone into it with, okay, it's going to be focusing on this scenario, and therefore she's going to be popping up all the time. Okay, all right, that's what I'm expecting. And
you could have literally done the season 1, episode 1, still could have been
identical, yeah, identical.
Carter got in the machine, and you could have started it from there, and it would have worked.
Yeah. So, for what they did, it felt like it wasn't what they advertised, and vice versa. So, that's me, mate. Is there anything else you wanted to say on the show?
What I will say is there were some parts of it that made me chuckle.
Yeah.
Like there were parts in it that make you go, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Yeah.
Or that's quite fun. Like, don't get me wrong, the Mech Avengers, that I thought was like as an episode, I thought the Mech Avengers, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like the idea of the Mech Avengers, I'm like, yeah, that's something I get into. That could be quite fun. But then the next scene, like the next episode, 1930s Hollywood Agatha, I was like, this is a hard watch.
But then that's down to personal preference, isn't it? Because other people would have loved that, whereas the Mech Avengers, they would have been like, nah.
Exactly, yeah. So it is all very much a preference, I guess. There were some good bits, there were some bad bits. Like you say, I think the best thing to say is that, yeah, it wasn't for me. And I, again, like you personally, think it just missed what we were expecting.
Yeah.
I hope there were people out there that did enjoy it. I mean, if you look at the IMDb ratings, they're not fantastic.
No.
The highest rated episode for this season was 6.8.
Which episode was that, out of interest?
Episode 7, What If the Watcher Disappeared?
People were just happy it was ending.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, incredible cast of actors. Like the fact they got so many people back was nice to hear some voices again. But it just wasn't for me, unfortunately.
No. So that is it. That was the show, What If. We will be returning throughout the year with Marvel content, so please do keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye on our socials. We're going to be putting out a post very soon with a kind of outline of the shows we're going to be talking about this year, and things to look forward to. So yeah, please look out for that if you enjoy listening to us. If you did enjoy What If and there's bits of this you want to point out to me and go, hey, you didn't talk about this, and what do you think about this? Get in touch. You can reach us at sam@stuffandthangspodcast.com, the email. You can get in touch via any of the socials. You can join us on Discord and have a direct conversation with me and tell me how wrong I am. By all means, do that. The link to that will be in the podcast description. Until we talk again, you all take care.
And What If? We'll be back soon.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.